Welcome to another edition of the Black Wealth Experience podcast. And I'm so excited that today we're going to talk about something that is not typically one of the things we talk about, but it is something that is integrated into our lives in every aspect of what you do. From the energy that you have, from your ability to be able to get in front of people, from your ability to have longevity, and that is health. You know, you think of the $1 trillion the industry that health and wellness is, and how many people don't take advantage of it. The big thing is, you know, I could say, well, you know, wait, you could go make some money at health and wellness, and you could sell vitamins or pills or whatever else, or you can, you know, I think, you know, Baltazar, and that is our guest today, and I'll introduce him in a second. But one of the things that I am so tired of is the next pill that is going to make you healthy. The next remedy. I think I was watching this last week, and I was in Big Bear, California, and you know, we were watching TV with the in-laws and stuff, and there was some kind of omega X, triple X, you know, formula that you take, and your joints are going to feel good. And if you can just get this one formula, or you go online. I think this morning, you know, sometimes, you know, I'll be listening to a podcast or listening to, you know, expert in certain areas, and then they'll go to the commercial. And then all of a sudden, you know, if I'm not by my phone to switch it, and I got the headphones on, I'm listening to 15 minutes about, you know, what the next thing that you need to do before we're going to tell you how this pill was going to work and help you. And it just gets so, I guess, hard, because I'm here to tell you right now, a pill isn't going to make you healthy. I just tell you that right now. And so today, when we talk about wealth and we talk about wealth generation, in order for you to do that, health is important, because either you're going to spend the money right now to get healthy and do the things that you should be doing, eating the right foods, that kind of stuff, or on the back end, when you're living to 80 or 90 years old and everything hurts and you're still alive and they're keeping you alive, then you look at the bill and you just want to die. And so today I have Baltazar on today. He is in the fitness world. He is a trainer. He knows what he's doing. I asked him specifically to come on to this podcast because I really want to talk about all around what it takes to generate wealth, not just a pocket of, oh, you got some money in your bank account, let's talk about that money. You as an individual. The other part is you probably want to enjoy it too. You know, if we do start creating wealth, and whether it's personal wealth or generational wealth, you know, you want to be able to enjoy some of the fruits of your retirement. So many times I go over folks' house and I'm in there, maybe it's a small house with some TV trays, and I'm thinking about the quality of life. You're sitting in front of your television, watching Will and Fortune all day long and not enjoying the things that are happening outside. So Baltazar, thank you. Welcome. I'm so glad that you are here today. I'm so glad that you are wanting to be part of this podcast today. And first, what I want you to do before you do anything, before you tell your story, tell you who you are, tell people how they can get a hold of you. Because if they have to just jump to the beginning of this real quick and get your number, I want them to be able to do that. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll jump into this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I have a group on Facebook called Relentless Spirit Fitness and Nutrition. That is the same name as my company, Relentless Spirit Fitness and Nutrition. And I have a website coming. It'll be here at the end of the month. It'll be the same way that you'll be able to find me. But if you're looking for me right now, I'm on Facebook at that. I have a phone number, and I'll link all of that stuff for you if you'd like, and that way you can post it to this too. That would be super awesome. But yeah, it's a free Facebook group with all of the content that I have. I give it all away for free in an essence of teaching people on how to better have better nutrition in their life and fitness tips too. So because again, like the audience that you're speaking to is the perfect audience, and they're busy individuals. They are out there trying to make a living. They are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, any and all above. And the most important thing that people tend to overlook is their health. And just like you were saying, you want to be around to be able to enjoy that and to have, you know, to be able to grow and do all of that stuff with your family at the same time. But where we honestly lose it is we don't make time for ourselves in order to have better fitness and nutrition.
Oh, absolutely. So how'd you get involved with this? What spurred you on to say, hey, I want to be a personal trainer. I want to talk about nutrition. I want to really help people with their health.
Yeah. So I had studied martial arts for over 30 years. So I'm going to be 40 here now in October.
No
I
way.
had been in it ever since. I loved it. My sister, if you ever meet one of my sisters, they'll tell you that I've wanted to be a Ninja Turtle ever since I was a little kid.
Gotcha.
And so my mom put me into martial arts. I got bullied as a little boy, and I grew up with nothing but sisters, so I had like no males around me to really kind of teach me how to protect myself. And once I got into it, I fell in love with it, and it was just a huge aspect of my life. Grew up doing it throughout high school, everything like that. It was my first real profession. And I grew up idolizing like 80s and 90s movies. I was born in 83, so I was watching movies like Top Gun and Rocky 3, especially because I got to see like Carl Weathers and
Hmm.
Sylvester Stallone just ripped in those movies. And I was just like, wow, that's cool looking. Like, how do I do that? And as a freshman in high school, when Fight Club came out, watching Brad Pitt, just having these really lean physiques and just never really understanding how to actually accomplish that. I had been in martial arts this whole time, working out like 5, 6, 7 days a week at a time, and just not knowing what I was doing wrong. And I got to my mid 20s. I was still teaching martial arts. And I kind of just suffered from body dysmorphia at that point. And if you're not familiar with that term, it's just, I didn't necessarily like the way I looked. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So I just figured I wasn't working out hard enough and I was just eating too much. And so I went down this dark path of like under consuming calories and overtraining. And, from the course of 6 to 12 months, I had really broken down my body to the point where I wasn't able to enjoy the what I love to do, and that was teaching martial arts. I just had built a bad relationship with it. And with my family and my friends too, my relationships kind of went in the tank. And I had to stop. I had to stop that profession. I had to stop working out for a while, and I had to get my head straight. Fighting, let alone 6 days a week, teaching martial arts takes its toll on your body. So then throwing in even more endurance and cardio on top of that without feeding yourself properly was just a bad formula. And so I had to stop. And there were some good things. There were silver linings that came out of that, right? I was able to take a step back and refocus myself on what was actually important in my life, and was rebuilding those relationships with my family. And I got to meet my wife, and I have two beautiful kids now because of it. But for the next 10 years of my life, I was just like, there has to be a way that I can do this in a healthy way. And so I went back on my journey from about 25 to 35, just trying to read material and see what I was doing wrong, and trying this fad diet and trying this fad diet, and listening to this influencer, and just watching YouTube, and just trying to figure out what to do, read magazines, and just never really knowing. And finally 35, 36, I came across some really good information and figured cardio wasn't necessarily the best way of doing it. So I started lifting more weights, and I started to change my mindset, and I started to actually eat more. And little by little, I just watched the muscle grow on. And as this happened, I started taking more nutrition courses to figure out, like, okay, there's more to this than just working out now. It's like, let's get real specific into it, and how can I make myself feel better? And you know, um, during the pandemic, we were in lockdown. I built myself a home gym, and I just kept improving and improving from there. And little by little, I was just like, wow, I found my passion again for fitness and nutrition. And I remembered what I loved so much about martial arts was just the opportunity to teach people and give them that same, or let them feel my passion for it, and let that help fuel them too, in order to achieve the success that they want. And so that's what I'm doing now, is I'm trying to teach people from my mistakes of, you don't have to restrict on calories, you don't have to cut certain food groups out, and you don't have to be doing hours of cardio to be successful. You can do that by simply just a couple hours of resistance training throughout the week, get you some good steps in, take some nice walks, spend some time with your family, burn off calories that way, and you can have a lean physique that you could be proud of, without killing yourself over.
It's so good, and I'm glad you brought that up, because when I was thinking, I was, and for those of you who don't know, I was a physical education teacher for 25 years. Actually, I didn't all do physical education, but I've been coaching in physical education computers. But one of the things that, when you think about all around health, you think about, there's a difference between exercise and diet. There's a different, then you have the kinesiology side of the way your body moves, and the stretching, and the, making sure that your body has the ability to be efficient, and I think we try, what I see a lot of people doing is they'll pick one of those three. So they'll say, hey, I need to have really good heart health, and I'm going to go do runs, and I'm going to do walks. And they got this great heart, and the cardio and the lungs and the pulmonary and everything works real well, but they have no muscle tone, and their diet is terrible, and they feel terrible. Or you have the person who just eats and eats and eats and doesn't do any exercise, and then they feel terrible. Or you have the people who don't stretch, or they do anything, they get out of bed, and in the morning they feel terrible. And so it really, your body needs all three. It needs the ability to be flexible. It needs the ability to, create tone and that kind of stuff. It needs the ability to have some cardio that you can walk up and down stairs. And you got to put the right fuel in, right? Right fuel in, good fuel out, or, whatever it is. What would you say, Baltazar, is like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just feel terrible when I wake up in the morning. I'm in my 40s, 50s, or 60s. The young folks, that's a whole nother world there, right? That they could do.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I start? TV shows me all this equipment and everything that I should buy, and whether it's a Bowflex, or I'm going to be Chuck Norris and I'm going to be on one board, or what's that, the Peloton bicycle, and everything else. Where do I start? Especially if I don't have a lot of money to go buy all that stuff that's on TV.
That's great. I'm glad that you asked that, because you don't necessarily need any of that stuff. Like I was saying, when we were in COVID and lockdown and everything like that, like, it was incredibly hard to get your hands on any type of equipment, right? Everyone was out there trying to get it at the same time. So, I had done running in the past, so that was something that I was able to get right back into. But even if you're not to that point, and there's an art to running too, by the way. Like, you don't just like all of a sudden put on some sneakers and start running again. Like, that's how people actually get hurt doing that too. Start off by walks. I'm all about building the habit. Like you're saying, like, you might have not been doing anything active for the last X amount of years, and that's okay, because it doesn't matter if you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s. You can just pick it up again just like that by simply walking. I advocate for anywhere from 10 to 12,000 steps daily, which, if you break it down in miles, that's like 5 to 6 miles a day that you're walking. If you're doing something like that, you're getting in all of the cardio that you need in order to, have good heart health. And you can accumulate steps easily. People would be surprised how many more calories you burn on the weekend just cleaning your house than you do walking around the office or doing things of that nature. People completely underestimate the power of walking. And that's the beauty of it, is, again, 10 to 12,000 steps a day is going to put you in the right place with your heart health. And then from there, as you build up to that, you might not be able to do 10 to 12,000 steps right away. If you can do 5,000, and then you aim for 6, and then 7, and you slowly start to build this up, you're going to start to see that you're going to start feeling better just from that natural movement. And then from there, that's when you can start doing little intervals of, like, I'm going to run for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to walk for a minute, and then I'm going to do it again. And you just slowly start to pick that up. And then at the same time, you start to incorporate some body weight training in there. You don't need all of that fancy equipment. Doing it properly and knowing how to do it will help you build effective muscle. Like, if you look at gymnasts, they don't use weights when they lift, and yet they can build these really big physiques simply by doing body weight training.
Yeah, so, as I think about, because, I think I get almost 9,000 steps, and I do 3 miles every morning, and I'm walking. I'm not running anywhere. I graduated high school in 1983, the year you were born,
Okay.
And so, my body isn't doing, so it would pound on it and would kill my knees, and I'd be in the hospital if I tried to run. But, I can do yoga at night and,
Yeah.
and do something a little bit different. And I can, really start thinking about, okay, how do I just enjoy? How do I duplicate,
Hmm.
like 3 miles is an hour for me, right? I'm walking 10, 20-minute
Yeah.
miles. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I'm listening to something. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm enriching my mind. I'm doing something. I'm not, for me, I was a track guy and I was a sprinter. So I like things fast to be over quickly. I was not an endurance training person. I don't even know what endurance people think about why they're running these long miles. But I can listen to an hour-long podcast and I
Hmm.
can get all this information in my brain, change who I am as a person at the same time the movement or walking. I know some people in offices now I see that are like standing up at their desk and moving
Hmm.
around a lot more. What would you say to like a person, that's sedentary all day, that's sitting down? What are some things that they can do just to make sure that they're moving? Because I think that's kind of what you're saying is, start out slow, start out something, but you got
Hmm.
to be moving, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Great question. So this is a good example of something I tell my clients all the time too, who have sedentary jobs, they're in offices, is take the long route as many times as you often can when you're going somewhere. If you know that you have to walk to a meeting that's in a different part of the building, take the long route in order to get there. Get those extra steps in. Don't take the elevator, take the stairs. If you're going to get water, again, take the route that you know that's going to take you a little bit longer, that's going to get you some more steps in order to get to that spot. If you know that there's candy on a certain path to where you need to go, take a different route to get to that path. So that way you avoid some of those temptations and that you're building those good habits of getting up and moving around. Do some stretches at your desk. I loved it that you had mentioned the stand-up desk. Yeah, like there's some simple exercises that you can do at your desk to help with your mobility. That's something that I think we all take for granted, is that we are super flexible when we're younger. We're all nimble. You can grab a baby and throw their leg over their head and stuff like that. And as we get older, we lose a lot of that just simply because we're not active enough. And so take the opportunity when you're right there, stand up, stretch, move your body, feel, your body connected to the ground, and move around that way. It's beautiful. The other thing that you can do too, that's a real easy, cheap investment, is buy some resistance bands. Like I advocate for resistance bands all the time. You could buy a full set of resistance bands for $30 on Amazon. And with that, you can gradually build up to the strength of those bands and feel the improvement from them. And again, $30 for like 5 different bands that you can use for well over a year or two and see muscle growth from it. You could take those with you to the office and do them, on a 10 to 15-minute break, and keep it super simple. Doing little things like that, just incorporating good habits of 10-minute workouts throughout the day, 7 days a week, you will notice a vast change in your body just like that, by just building those consistent little habits. A great book for anyone that's listening to this that would be interested is read James Clear's Atomic Habit. That's a phenomenal book for anyone who is wanting to create better habits in their life, like nutrition or fitness. And just start off with 1 minute. Give yourself 1 minute a day of starting to build that habit. And over time, that little habit is going to be like, well, I'm already doing this. Why don't I just do it for a little bit longer? And then you go from there. And then you start to build and stack upon that all of the great things that are going to come from it. And that's where you
Wow.
start.
Yeah, I was just thinking while you were saying that, one of the things you said was, the water and getting to it. I tend to see people lately that I go to. I'm sitting in a conference room and they have these like big 52-ounce water bottles, and I think you'd be so much better off to keep some 12-ounce water bottles in the refrigerator. Still
Yeah.
go drink your water, but don't try to drink it all while you're sitting sedentary.
Mhm.
The other thing that I started doing, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, is when I went to malls or stores or the grocery store, I would park in the back of the parking lot. I don't
Perfect.
want you to nick my car anyways, but walk, all the way into the supermarket. I'm not going to fight you over a space up front because I actually need to walk. I get if it's
Yeah.
a blizzard, we're in Colorado, if it's snowing, that kind of stuff, maybe try to be up front. But the further out I park, the better I feel when I have to end up going back out there.
Yeah.
One of the things that another thing that I know we're not going to have enough time. We're going to have to pick this up and we're going to do this again, but is the nutrition side. And,
Yes.
that seems to be one of the hardest things for folks to figure out. I loved your example of if there's candy out there, walk around
Yep.
that. But if I put candy in my house and I put the ice cream in my refrigerator and
Yep.
how do I come up with a balanced nutritional diet that isn't the fast food or isn't the things that I'm putting in my body that are actually, going against what I'm doing when I'm walking? How can I start out there?
That's a beautiful question. And yeah, I mean, we can definitely go down a rabbit hole with this one, but 80% of something is better than 0% of nothing, right? And this is where meal prep and learning how to cook is fantastic. And for any men that are listening out there, listen to this. If you want a woman's attention, cook for them. Like I can't tell you how many times I heard in my office when I worked for Denver Human Services that women just love when men cook for them, when they take that up and they're willing to do it. So if you want to get some easy points with your spouse or your girlfriend or your loved one, start learning how to cook. And then from there, once you start learning how to cook, you can start making these homemade recipes from home. You know what's in them. You can make them healthier. And again, it may not taste like the Domino's pizza or the restaurant pizza that you like to go out to, but you can certainly learn recipes that you can make a pizza at home that is way less than half the calories, that is about 80 to 90% the same, and it will fill you up and give you more of the nutrients that you need. You could do the same thing with cookies. You could do the same thing with pancakes. I love to go to meetings when I do my networking events, and I love to take me my banana peanut butter pancakes with me. They're under 600 calories when I make them. They're packed full of protein, and they keep me satiated for the next 4 hours. And I love it when people are like, "What do you do for a living? And you're eating pancakes?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And that's the great thing about it, is that you just learn how to make these things. You can have whatever you want on a daily basis. And that doesn't mean that you can't still go to restaurants and you can't have those orders that you love. If there's an entree you love, you can absolutely learn how to put that and incorporate that into your diet. You just have to be strategic about it and follow the rule of 80-20, right? I'm sure you've heard the rule of 80-20 for many things. It's no different for nutrition. 80% of your food should be coming from whole food sources. 20% can be that processed. And then the restaurant meals can fall into that 20%. So as long as you're home cooking and you're meal prepping the vast majority, that one meal a week is not going to kill you, as long as you do it in moderation, of course. And that's the key. And that's the part that we have to change in people's mindset, is the moderation.
Absolutely. And it's so good that you said you can eat just about anything, because people get so stuck on one little thing and then they say, I can't do it. Or, oh, I can't have a diet soda because it has aspartame in it, or that I'm just going to have to drink the sugar ones. Or, like you said, in moderation. Well, you said, well, he said I could go to the restaurant, but they're at Taco Bell 7 days a week for 4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Eating without the fast food menu. And I think most people know what's good for them. They just don't know how to structure it. And so, which brings me to probably will be our last question before we figure out how to do this again, is why is it important? And I believe 100% it is, when you get started, not to try to do this by yourself, to get somebody like yourself that's available. I was a track coach for 37 years. And I can tell you, all of my athletes would say, I don't think I get as far as I could without having a coach there to help me. Kind of talk about the importance of having somebody like yourself, especially when you're getting going and when you're getting started and you don't know all this stuff.
Absolutely. Accountability is the big one, right? Like, you may need someone to be there to tell you what you need. Like, you have the motivation, but you need the accountability, how to push you in the correct direction. And the second biggest thing is exactly that. There is so much information out there. You can't tell the difference between the right information and misinformation. And having a coach is pertinent, because again, I spent 10 years on my own trying to figure this out. And there are people who have done the same and that are still doing it to this day that still haven't necessarily figured it out. So having a coach who can guide you down the right path, where again, teaching you that there is no such thing as is a bad micronutrient. You don't have to be afraid of carbohydrates. You don't have to be afraid of fat. You don't have to think that too much protein is a bad thing for you. You don't have to follow a fad diet. You can have a balanced diet. You can enjoy things, and you can still see the improvements in there. And that's what a good coach will teach you, is how to do that without you feeling like you have to cut everything out. Because if you follow most influencers, by the time you're done, the only thing you're going to be able to eat is lettuce. You don't even, at that point, you don't even want to touch anything because you think it's all bad for you. Like you said, Diet Coke, it has aspartame in it. I'm going to die. If that's the case, get rid of your cell phone. It's in the same category as aspartame. So it's like having someone there who can guide you down the correct path so that you're not guessing all the time is going to make your journey all that much better. And think of your nutrition and your fitness as a journey and not a sprint, because you're not going to get there overnight. We have things that we need to change in your mindset, but having someone there with you to guide you and letting you know that it's okay and that they may have been through the same things you're going through now is going to make it all that much easier for you.
That's so good. So, Baltazar, we're kind of in at the end of time, and what I'd like for you to do is make sure one more time that you give people the ability to get a hold of you, to have that next conversation with you, to call you, to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
How do I do it? And so maybe you can give us that information, and just maybe one last thought that you would love to share with everybody as they get started on this fitness journey or continue the fitness journey that they're already on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, the name of my company and my Facebook group is known as Relentless Spirit Fitness and Nutrition. If you can't find it that way, please friend me on Facebook. I'll bring you into the group. My name is Baltazar Villanueva. And yeah, I have a website coming up at the end of the month that it will be the same thing. My phone number is 303-917-6386. You can find me all kinds of different ways, and I would love to help people in that sense of like learning how to do this and knowing that you're not the only person that has ever gone through this, and that it is totally feasible to do this as a busy individual who may have a family, who may have their own career, or they might be an entrepreneur or self-employed, don't have time because you're constantly working. There are ways to work around that. You come with me, I can help you find that way.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you for being on this episode of the Black Wealth, Black Wealth Experience, and podcast. And we're going to have you back. And then maybe when we have you back, we can bring somebody that has worked with you, who that has taken on some of them. We can ask them some of those questions like, what was it like when you got started? Now that you feel better, one of those success stories that people can see. If that person can do it, I can do it too. And I want to end this podcast just like I end all of the ones at Wealth. And so, the first thing is that you can do this. This is not something that is reserved for, people who just, already feel better or already have it together or don't have any pain. That you can do this. You can start anytime. Doesn't matter whether you're 12 or you're 70 years old. You can do it. The next thing is you deserve this. You deserve to get up every single morning and not feel bad, because I know what that feels like, and I've been there. And it's terrible to get up and just kind of wish, when is this going to end? Because it just isn't comfortable. And the last thing I would say is, let us help you. There are folks in your life, and that's what this podcast is all about. And why I highlight different people like Baltazar is because we know that there are experts. And as general folks that don't used to doing this all the time, we don't have the answer. And with this information generation, we don't have time to look at all the information. And then we get stuck on this information overload and we don't do anything. Right. So again, thank you for being on. We appreciate you. Can't wait to have you back on. And please, for everybody else, can't wait to have to see you on the next one. So you guys have an awesome, wonderful, awestruck, incredible day today. We'll talk to you later. Well, thank you for tuning into our podcast today. It has been a fantastic opportunity for us to show you exactly what we're trying to do in the community. And that is to help people to make sure that they have the ability to realize home ownership. And so my name is Brian Arnold. I am a lender. I'm with City First Financial. And so if you have questions I'm not doing this podcast so that we can, rush all the business over to City First Financial. I'm doing this podcast so that we can make sure that you are taken care of, that you have a real estate agent, that you have a loan officer, that you have a credit repair person, that you have an insurance person, that you have a financial advisor, all working with you towards making your home ownership realization happen. We're also going to be talking about, wealth generation and what it means to pass on to the next generation. I do trusts and wills and making sure that the money that you've accumulated during your lifetime actually passes on to the next generation without going through a thing called probate. And so we want to make sure that we have some unique, different things that we may have talked about on this thing that can help you think about what that's going to look like. So thank you again for communicating. Go ahead and subscribe to these YouTube channels, whether it's on YouTube that you're watching the video, or if you are just listening to this on a podcast, that you are subscribing to the podcast, because we are going to have some amazing guests that are coming on and some amazing content. So thank you for the blackwealthexperience.org and getting on that and just coming in and listening to us and then taking advantage of the resources that we're hopefully and education that we're hopefully giving to you. So you have a wonderful, awesome, incredible Oshric day. You are God's greatest gift, and I want to make sure that you know that. Talk with you guys soon.